Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm so excited for season 2 and the great guests you're going to hear from, their struggles, how they overcame their struggles, their triumphs. Through personal and business life, I think they're tied together, and we're going to share great stories about that. This show isn't just about me. It takes a lot of good people working with me. Among them is my partner, H7 Network, and Clay Hicks. Building relationships, building community is the mission of H7 Network. They want to create a network of champions where everybody wins. Find out more at h7network.com. And we hope to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you through our show. Enjoy the show. We'll talk to you on the other side. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. As always, we have a servant coming on our show, and this guest is from Colombia. She's in the United States now, but I love bringing international guests in because it's a different culture, different flavor of serving. Maritza, welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am thrilled.
I love having you. And let's talk diversity. You had mentioned it before the show. That's part of your mission statement, your business. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I am actually opening a podcast. And then one of the things that I have always been aware of is the differences of cultures and differences of accents. But more than that, I have noticed that in my heart, I see that everybody has an accent. No matter where you are, no matter where you go, you will have an accent. Whether you are a New Yorker or a Southern, or if you are a Colombian or an Israeli, you will have an accent if you go out of your home. And then it led me to think deeper than that, because our accent really is who we are, is our essence, is what brings out of the heart and how we do things. That accent is that little notch that you put in your letters, the bold letters of your story. And I always wanted to bring that message and say, bring those differences, whatever they are, whether they are cultural or a disability or difference that you can make in the world, bring them out so that they are bold. They make you bold and stand out instead of like trying to hide from it.
Your podcast, take all this in. Talk about your podcast.
Well, my podcast is towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the name of my podcast is My Accent is No Accident. And that podcast is for those who have always done something different in order to thrive, and is to have a platform for my guests to tell their story and how they did something different and now they're thriving.
So uniqueness and difference is a good thing.
Yes.
And you celebrate it.
And I celebrate it, and we all celebrate it. Yes.
That's beautiful. I love that message. What's the name of the podcast again, so the audience can write it down?
My Accent is No Accident.
What a great title. I love that title. Let's talk about your business with podcast. I know you work with the podcast industry. Tell us a little bit what you do.
Yes, I have a boutique of virtual assistants, but we are a little more than that, other than giving the regular administrative services that a virtual assistant does. We help our speakers, authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs increase their visibility through podcast guesting. So we position our clients in podcasts that have their target audience. We give them strategies on how to leverage the interviews and how to be more visible, and we help them do absolutely everything also after the interview so that they get more views and increase the SEO when somebody looks at your name. a list of all those podcasts with your message over and over again. And not to forget that a podcast is evergreen, so you can listen to it anytime.
So you help a podcast guest be a better guest.
Yes.
And is that including promoting their business as well?
Yes, includes to promote their businesses. And we also are podcaster friendly. So we help the podcaster get out there and visibility to the podcast as well.
And how do you do that?
We do it through social media, posting and repurposing of the different quotations that are in the podcast, and as well as we give our guests little scripts on what to do and what to send in their email list.
That's powerful, because if they don't do that, what's going to happen?
Nothing. They just went to an interview.
Yeah. And it just sits there because it's evergreen, but you got to get the evergreen out there.
Yes.
Talk about evergreen, what that means. Some of the audience may not know. What's the power of evergreen?
Evergreen means that you can see it anytime, anywhere, over and over again. Somebody that has not, like, for instance, if they are listening to your podcast for the first time today, they can subscribe to your podcast and start listening to the previous episodes. And they can share this to over and over again to different people. And these people can listen to these messages no matter when and where. It's always going to be there.
What's the power of a podcaster growing their subscribers and their views on YouTube and things like that? What could be the result from doing that?
The result from doing that is actually greater than having your website.
Wow.
Because it's organic SEO. People will be recognizing not only the host as an expert, and actually podcasters are starting to become celebrities. So they will be recognized as celebrities in the media, because now podcast is finally recognized as media. It was recognized as a hobby before, but finally people are saying, yes, podcast is media.
Are more and more people watching podcasts or listening to podcasts now than they were 5 years ago?
Yes, we actually have over 4 million listeners around the world.
Wow. And that means 4 million people could be listening to somebody's podcast. Of course, they're not all gonna. Well, that's pretty good promotion.
Yes, that is pretty good promotion. Just if you listen to a podcast that has 1,000 viewers, those are 1,000 people that have never heard of you before. And if they are 100, it's 100 people that have never heard of you before.
Right.
But the good thing about Evergreen is these 100 bring more people behind them.
And having a lot of podcasts is important, in being consistent recording, right?
Yes, you have to be consistent. One of the things that you have to make sure that when you are podcast guesting, in my case, when I do it with my clients, the very first thing that you look at is the consistency of the podcast interviews and the podcast episodes that are put in the platform. So you go in and you see that the podcast had an episode 3 months ago, and then another one yesterday. But before that was 6 months ago. That is a podcast that is not going to serve, it's not serving the podcaster, and is not going to serve the client either, because it doesn't have consistency and it's probably not going to have following.
So you do an audit of the podcast. So I'm a guest, possible guest. I reach out to you, go, hey, this XYZ doing business with the servant's heart wants me to be on their show. You actually do the research and help me decide if this is a good fit for me.
That is correct. I do that. And then we also do things like getting out of the box for the podcast guest. And we tell them, listen, this podcast holds an amazing audience, but they're not within your brand, or they are not within your language, but it is gonna hold your audience
Yeah.
because it has perfect. So sometimes getting out of the box is a good thing when the podcast has a wider and bigger audience.
If somebody says to you, well, I can do this myself, what's your answer to that?
I usually tell them, yes, you can.
Okay.
Um, See you in 3 months.
And why you say that?
Because podcast guesting and making the research and positioning people and booking them and pitching, it's a full-time job. I do it every day with different clients, and it's a full-time job. One client takes, Steve, it takes like probably 40 emails, 40 contacts to get to good interviews.
Wow. How many 40 email, how many interviews would you get for them? One or two, three or four? I mean,
Usually, well, you send it and then they don't respond within a week or two. So you have to consistently be sending emails
gotcha.
and contacts, messages, and phone calls are not really good with podcasts. Podcasts are all through messaging, and sometimes the very, very good podcast, you have to be waitlisted.
Yeah.
So you have to continuously every day, 2 hours a day, if you want to do it on your own. But if you want to have more and more, like 4, 8, 10 interviews a month, you have to, it's like a full 4 hours. And if you are running your own business, do you really want to spend the
Yeah.
time doing that?
No. And is the messaging is important. So you know how to craft a good message then.
Yes, the message is very important. The message, it has to be dedicated to the podcaster and it has to touch their heart, because one of the things about podcasting is that this is the podcasters are doing this out of passion and from the heart. And if you come to them with a pitch that you send to another 100 people, they're going to catch it. They're going to be like, I'm not interested. You send this to another 50 or 100 people. They know the way you put it. It has to be done in a specific way that allows the podcaster know that you actually listen to their podcast and you know what they are talking about.
So an ideal podcast for a guest, it's important what they're saying. So you actually listen to the podcast
Yes.
to learn about what this message is, so it'll be a
Yes.
fit. Okay.
We usually, me and my agents, we listen to the podcast, let's say 3 to 4 episodes, and sometimes a little more. We don't listen to all of to
Yeah.
the whole episode, although sometimes they're so nice that we listen to the whole episode. But we'll listen to specific episodes, and usually kind of like something that matches our client. Um, and if we see that it really matches the personality, the branding, the message, it doesn't have to be exactly the same message, because then it's a bunch of people saying the same thing over and over
Yeah.
again. You have to also allow your client to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
So it's more about, let's listen to the host, and let's listen if the host will be able to take that out of my client.
Yeah. And that's why this is a perfect example. We're both podcast hosts, but you're coming from a different angle. It's a great fit for me. You're serving podcast guests in a different way.
Yes.
Here's a great question I hear all the time. Should a guest pay to be on a podcast?
I agree, but I don't agree. And it depends. Podcasts shouldn't be paid for. Um, However, um, I understand the podcaster that charges for it, because if but I have noticed that sometimes it's because they don't have a good audience and they need to pay their bills somehow. However, I also have seen that they have so much money invested in advertising and putting it out there, the SEO, the website.
Hmm.
They are becoming a radio station. So you have to pick the one that you know is paying advertising, and then you can pay that podcast.
Is your piggyback? That's great. Great. It's the best answer I've ever heard when asking me on a podcast. Because if Joe Rogan asked me to be on a podcast and it's $500, I don't know what it is, I would probably do it because of his reach. He's one of the top guys in the world.
Yeah.
But I also agree with you. The advertising is so important because you get the piggyback on that. You jump on it. Hey, you know, I'm Steve Ramona from da da da. I like that answer because, and that's what you do, and that's why you're an expert.
Thank you. Yes.
No, I love that because I get asked that every once in a while. And, you know, there's some people who charge $25. I'm like, really? Why are you charging that? Just serve. I'm thinking a podcast, as we talked about it earlier, is a great way to serve. In regards to your social media, you do it with podcasters, but you also work with businesses as well.
Yes.
Let's talk
Yes.
about that a little bit.
So we do social media lead generation, and depending on where the client wants to be, we set up strategies. We have the last few months, probably 3-4 months, we have started using AI, which is really good. But we already have content that can be tweaked for the clients. And we also require that our client not only put us to post for them, but also it's engaging.
That's important.
Yes.
And that's where, going back to the podcast, having your own podcast show, you've got built-in content that you can just take and run with it. So if a company has a podcast, you can do the social media with the podcast shorts and things like that, right?
Yes, exactly. With the podcast guesting, we have everything done. It's a done for you service. It's not only position you in the interview. I'm sorry. In the interview is also the train came by and distracted me. So it positions the client on the interview, but after that, if you don't do anything, you just went to an interview and did nothing. So what we do is take that content and that episode and post and share that in the social media. We tag the podcaster because we want to help the podcast, right? The podcast to have more views with the audience that the client has. And I also put it on my audience, and then some networking groups that I am part of that have thousands of followers, so that they know that that podcast is part of our network. And then after that, a few months later, we start repurposing that episode, and we do snippets and put them as the client's voice, as a message. And it's incredible because when you go to an interview, you are yourself, and you are not like prepared, and it's not scripted. Although I always tell people, try to write down the ideas of what you're going to talk about, so you don't go off like topic like crazy.
Yeah, talking about the weather. Hey, the weather's great. So it has nothing to do with either one of us.
Yes. So like me with the train.
Yeah, exactly. You were good.
So you go ahead and repurpose that, and then you give that to the client so the client can use it for advertising for them.
Can you give me a story of a client that you work with that was a guest of podcast and how you helped them grow? Not made them, but helped them.
Well, I have two of my biggest clients. One, they both are speakers, and they both are authors and coaches. So one of them is a publicist, and she is very well known for the programs that she gives out. So um, the idea was to put her on like 4 interviews. I put her on 8, 6, sometimes 6 or 8, because she has a very, very busy schedule.
Yeah.
One time I think we put her on no, it was 8. Never mind. I was gonna BS in here, but it was 8 podcasts in a month. And people started to show up. Even the podcasters started to show up to her programs, because her message is so great and very well structured that it caught everybody's attention. There is other part of her business that is a philanthropy business, and the podcasters also want to become a guest to this program. So it's like a circle. It's always moving. It doesn't stop, and that's the beauty, and that's why I fell in love. I used to listen to podcasts before I did this, and when somebody told me, why don't you do that, because kind of like the podcasting, and I said, oh, okay. And it is even better because now I'm talking to both sides, and you get to know what happens before, after, and during. But it's like this moving circle all the time. And another client that I have, he wanted to be in radio, and I'm like, getting to media is very difficult. So I started putting him on podcast, and now today, and him, today he has a podcast. So it's he knows that podcast was way better than regular media, because podcast is the media, and it has a greater opportunity to do business with other people.
That's a powerful statement. We're running out of time here. So quick, do a shout out how people can reach you, because I know there's some people want to reach you.
Yes, you can reach me at info@mp-virtualassist.com. And you can go to my website, mp-virtualassist.com, and you can see all the information about our services, and you just click the button, contact me, or set up a call with me, and then that's how you reach me.
Can I get a little crazy? I like to do this on my show. I get a little crazy. You okay with that?
Yes, sure.
You don't know what's coming,
Oh
but
my
this is a
gosh.
good thing. I love what you're doing, because I'm in the podcast space and it's changed my life completely in the last 4 months. I want the first 2 people that reach out to you, Maritza, I'm going to send them a gift. So you let me know those first 2 people. She'll reach out to me, get your contact
Awesome.
info, email, whatever, and I'll get your mailing address. I'm going to mail you a gift, because audience, I want you to reach out to her. If you've even thought about a podcast, and real quick story, I've been thinking about a podcast 2 years. I finally did it with our group Pantheon that we're part of, October 1st. It's been a game changer. I've added 1,800 people to my network. And
Oh,
that's
wow.
what she can do. There's so many other things that we can do with our network, and that Maritza will help you with. So reach out to her.
Yes.
Maritza, it's been a pleasure having you on my show. This is so informative. I thought I
Thank
knew
you so much.
everything, but this has been great. We got to have you back. I'm going to have you back for part 2.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask a favor?
Yes.
I'd love for you to leave one piece of advice for my audience that can help them in their journey of life.
I came from corporate, and I decided to take the leap of faith of opening my own business. So if you are even thinking about it and you have a good idea, let the fear sit behind and do it, because this roller coaster is super fun, and you're going to meet a lot of beautiful, wonderful people.